Welcome to Couples Therapy in 7 Words. I'm your co-host, Judy Alexander, and I'm here with my husband, Dr. Bruce Chalmer.
Hello, Judy. Hello, viewers and listeners. Judy, what's today's topic?
Marrying America, an interview with Jeremy Nelson.
We just finished that interview, and it's an interesting concept he's got going. It's a website that is not about hooking up. It's about long-term relationships.
Right.
So check out, courting.
Yeah.
That's the word. And
it's like courtship.
yes, indeed.
Yes, to more intentionally think of relationships, not as hookups, but, you want to have a serious relationship, possibly leading to marriage or possibly just wanting to be with one person.
And as as an old techie, what am I, a sort of quasi-techie myself?
Yeah.
I was interested in the algorithm that he's come up with, a particular way of designing the incentives on the site. It's fascinating. Check out the interview. He'll explain it.
Our guest today is Jeremy Nelson. Jeremy is a CPA, married for over 35 years, and a father of 2 adult daughters. Seeing a lack of dating apps that encourage intentional engagement, he founded Marrying America, a website dedicated to foster meaningful connections. Jeremy, welcome to Couples Therapy in 7 Words.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Well, we're happy to have you. So we always like to start off asking our guests, how did you get into the work you do? Tell us something about your own journey. And I have to say, it sounds like you are married, right? You've been married for a long time.
Yes,
so
I am.
It's not like you got into this because you were having trouble dating. So I'm curious what got you into this.
Well, that's a great question. And I sometimes ask myself the very same question.
Mm-hmm.
How am I here? Because as you correctly noted, I've been married for many, many decades, happily so. But in my day-to-day life, I recognize that a lot of my peer group, many of my peers were not as fortunate. And I would hear the dating horrors, the stories. And I said to myself, wait a minute, there has to be a better way to get relationships off on a better footing, because how things start sometimes have a lot to do with how they progress and how they eventually end up. And, I'd known people who had been on dating apps and I'd given that a twirl. And I decided that no, there has to be a better way for people who are intentional, people who are seriously looking for a life partner to meet that life partner. And I identified what I thought were some deficiencies in what was currently available. And I decided to modify and to solve for those deficiencies, and hence, Marrying America was born. So that's how I got into this.
It looks like you use an old-fashioned word, which is courtship. Tell me a little bit about what you mean by courtship as opposed to like dating. I guess courtship is kind of fallen out of fashion, but let's get back to courtship.
Sure. And that was very intentional because dating implies, to me at any rate, that there's no longevity to it. We're going to date, and then at some point, we'll go our separate ways. Courting is when you're actively engaged, in my opinion, in building a relationship that will lead to marriage and happily ever after. It's 2 very fundamentally different approaches. When you're taking somebody out with the intention of courting them, I think your approach is entirely different than when you're taking somebody out with the intention of dating them. And I wanted Marrying America to be a place where people felt like they were being courted, and the gentleman would feel like, hey, look, I'm in a place where people expect to be courted. And if I'm not prepared to do that, then Marrying America is not for me. So I was very intentional in positioning Marrying America as a courting website, not just another dating or hookup app.
Mm.
So does that mean a chaperone goes on those dates?
It'd be quite a service.
Have your Aunt Minnie come along?
I mean, when you look at the social media stories, I think a lot of these people could use a chaperone, but no, that's not, that's not something that we actively encourage. But yes.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of I was just reading about this somewhere.
Mhm.
If you think about what the dating apps, most of the dating apps, their incentive is to keep you from marrying. Even though they'll say that, you're looking for a long-term partner, they have an incentive in keeping people on the apps. So they're really looking
Absolutely.
more for hookups than they are for marriages. Does that ring true?
Absolutely. I mean, any common sense will tell you that because if you have a user base that's getting married, then when you're reporting to Wall Street on your P&Ls and your profit and loss margins, the business model dictates that you have to be keeping people on the app. So
Mhm.
even though it may not be intentional, it definitely has to be. Just that's just business 101. It has to be a part of the calculus. And then of course my approach is completely different because Marrying America, there is no subscription monthly subscription fee. You only pay for a match. So in essence, you are paying for results is the bottom line.
Uh,
Mm.
yeah, tell us about how that works. I was intrigued when I looked at your website that it is a very different model from what you usually see.
All right, a quick 30,000 foot overview would be the big difference is that with our model, there are no ongoing monthly subscription fees. You you pay for what we call credits. You can buy a credit, you can buy 3 credits, you can buy 5 credits, or something like that. These credits never expire, and you never spend those credits until you send a match request and the match request is accepted. So you only spend the credit when you get a bona fide, legitimate match. Now, what that means is that if you receive a credit from somebody, it tells you that they are financially invested in matching with you because you will know that if you accept that credit, it's going to cost you a credit and it's going to cost them a credit. So from the get go, you are intentionally letting that individual know I am sending you a match, therefore, I'm willing to invest in you. If I accept that match, then the message is reciprocated. When you realize that okay, this person is legitimately also invested in me because they spend money to
Mhm.
accept my match.
Yeah, and I think
So which is very different than
the
anything else.
credits, they're not like 10 cents, right? They're like $10 or something like that, or I forgot what the numbers were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're testing the pricing structure as these things go. But yes, it's going to be a financial investment, be it $5 or $10. But
Hmm.
yes, there will be a financial cost as opposed to the other models that are out there, where you pay a monthly subscription of $50 or whatever it is, and you can essentially send out match requests to 300 people every month.
Yeah.
So if you get a match request, you're not sure does this lady really like me, or am I just number 299 on her list of 304 that she sent a request to this month? You just don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You just don't know. And in our model, you also can only send a maximum of 5 match requests every month.
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
So, Judy, if you get a match request from a gentleman, you would know you are one of 5, maximum of 5 for that month.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't have to be questioning, geez, is he just bored on a Friday night and decided to send out,
Yeah.
15 match requests? No. You would know I am one of 5. And the thought process is that you're going to more carefully evaluate that match request, knowing that you are one of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, we're guessing that it's going to be evaluated a lot more carefully, knowing that, wow, I mean, this person must really like me because A, I'm one of five, and B, you, you're looking to financially invest in matching with me. So I think that gets the interaction off on a much stronger footing than in the current environment that we're operating in.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember where I saw this. It may have been in another interview you did or somewhere I saw. It was interesting
Sure.
because paradoxically, it means also that you don't have to be put off immediately by imperfections, which we all are. Do you know what I mean? In other words,
Sure.
if you're
Absolutely.
actually trying to make a match with someone, you have an investment in recognizing we're all human beings, and maybe you can get past little flaws that you're not looking for somebody who fits your mental model perfectly. You're looking for somebody you can work it out with. Does that sound right?
No, Bruce, you make a fantastic point because our belief is that if you know that you're one of no more than five, if you get a match request, you are going to be far more thorough in evaluating the person behind that match request. You are not going to be as quick to dismiss that match request. Oh, he's not tall enough. Oh, he's too short. Oh, I don't like whatever you don't like.
Mm.
Knowing that they are genuinely interested just based on the steps they have taken to that point, I think things that would otherwise be deal breakers, people are going to be willing to overlook
Mm-hmm.
and go, hey, this guy is interested in me. I am willing to overlook X, Y, or Z. On the other platforms, not so much because you don't know what their intentions are. You
Mm-hmm.
have no idea.
Right.
So
So this
yes,
is, like you said, more of a courtship than a hookup. So you're not this little, yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, I mean, the very same person who you may not have given a second thought to on a different site, on Marrying America, knowing that they're very intentional about
Mm-hmm.
wanting to match with you, things that would have been turnoffs on other sites, you're going to go, well, this guy seems to be really interested. Let me give him a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like from
Yeah,
the
I mean,
get-go, there's a more intentional outcome that people are wanting with this. Yes?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a large population out there that unfortunately they're caught in this vicious cycle of, did this person match with me because they genuinely like me or because I just happen to accept their match request? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
the world they're operating in right now. So they just don't know. And then secondarily, the reality of it is on these dating apps, 10-15% of the guys get 85% of the matches. That's just the numbers as they stand.
Mm-hmm.
So the other 85% of guys who are trying to form real relationships, I mean, they'll send a girl a match request and she'll immediately dismiss him because, hey, look, I mean, yeah, he doesn't tick some box or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Marrying America, when she knows that, hey, she is one of five in that 30-day period, and he's investing financially in her accepting the match, I think that shifts to one's mindset. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know how life is. I mean, mindset matters.
Mm-hmm.
How you go into something matters.
And is this
So,
all over the country?
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Hence, Marrying America. Heck, you can be in Germany, you can be in Norway, and you can be, in Scandinavia somewhere, and you want to marry an American. Hey,
Uh,
I mean,
To the
and
internet, yes.
absolutely. I mean, you have a lot of people looking for international, partners.
Sure.
So, well, yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I
So,
remember reading some research a number of years ago. It kind of fits with what you're saying and it was especially, I think they found this especially for women. They were saying that if somebody isn't obviously not right for you, in other words, if it isn't an immediate deal breaker, and what they're often referring to is if you don't feel immediate chemistry, you should still give somebody a chance. Again, unless it's like, unless you're dealing with an ex murderer, I mean, unless it's obvious,
Sure.
but
Absolutely.
you should give them a chance
Right.
because, especially for women, they're often misled by the instant chemistry. And so being misled by that chemistry, they can end up saying, oh,
Absolutely.
boy, this guy's really attractive, but you end up being with somebody who turns out to be kind of a jerk.
No, look, the reality of it is, back in the day, when you met people socially, you were not necessarily immediately attracted to them. But
Yeah.
as you engaged with them on church trips or, at camps or at school, that attraction grew
Right.
and yeah, and turned into long-term, relationships and marriages and so on and so forth. So, these stories of people who love at first sight
Hmm.
and they go on to 50-year relationships. I mean, that's Hollywood kind of stuff. I mean, that's Harlequin romance. That's not real life. That's not real life.
Right.
Where you're at the supermarket, you see somebody, love at first sight, and 35 years later, they're still together with the 5 kids and grandkids. No, that's just not real life. And I think this generation, especially, with this rise of social media, they've been conditioned in a way that prior generations weren't, that somehow the perfect love story is there to be had.
Hmm.
And I think they've been disillusioned and lied to in many respects. Because people who have been married for decades will tell you that the perfect relationship doesn't exist.
Hmm.
It's a work in progress.
Hmm.
But they don't hear those stories. They don't hear the real life tales of people who have been in the trenches and doing the heavy lifting. And anybody who's been in a successful relationship for any length of time will tell you that, hey, there are days when it's just straight cold blooded work. I mean, it's just a lot of heavy lifting. It's not hard. It's not a a rom com or or some love story or no, it's none of that stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's a tough slog.
Well, what makes it work when people are happy, I think, and I've just written a book about this. I've written several books about this. What makes it work when people are happy is when
Mm-hmm.
they actually are, when they recognize that they have work to do, and then it doesn't necessarily feel like work if they can just tolerate the occasional annoyance. That's one of my favorite things to point out.
Sure.
As I've often pointed out, Judy has to have that skill way more than I do because I'm way more annoying than she is. But she has that down pat. But if you have that skill down, then you can be fine
Right.
because then these things don't rise to the level of horrible. They're just, oh well,
Right.
that's kind of annoying. We're human beings. We're all annoying. That's part of the
For
story.
sure.
And that's
Right.
the
I
Hollywood
mean,
stories don't allow.
and you see, and whereas we understand that as long as you're in a relationship, there will always be these aches, as the kids on social media will refer to it. I mean, they're being led to believe that aches. Wait a minute. Why am I? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
That aches are something that you should have in a relationship. And again, you, the longer you're in a relationship, the longer you'll come to realize that there will always be something that your significant other will do that you'd rather them not do, right? Which is an ick.
called
But
being
guess
human.
what? Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
these younger kids, this generation, they seem to come from a mindset that, hey, if they do something that I don't like, then that's a deal breaker. No,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
called real life. It's called real life.
Yeah.
So how are we going to negotiate that? How are we going to work around it? So yeah, I think a lot of the disconnect is coming from the fact that they're being disassociated from what real life looks like, what real relationships are all about.
Mhm.
How they start, how they progress, how they grow, how they sustain, how they mature. Yeah, I'm not sure they're getting the real picture of how these things actually happen in the real world.
Yeah.
So,
So
I'm not sure what the answer is. Hmm.
your site is live now, right? People could sign
Oh,
up actually
absolutely.
if they wanted to. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. And right now, as we're promoting it, anybody who signs up, they'll get their first 50 credits, for free.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, and we like to think if you're on the site and you're not in a long-term relationship after you've used 50 credits, then yeah, we I don't know what to tell you, because if you want
Might not be
50
the great
first
site.
dates, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're picking around, something is going on. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go on 50 first dates with people who legitimately want to be on first dates with you, and you're not in a long-term, meaningful relationship, then there are other issues that we need to get addressed.
Mm.
But so
Yeah.
yeah, that's what this is all about. Is because there's nothing better than a healthy, long-term, sustained relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the trick is to find it. The trick is to find it with somebody who's like-minded.
yeah.
Is the trick. Find the right person, as you've so often
No,
said.
no, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. And like I said, I mean, I believe that most everybody out there is of that mindset. They want to be in a long-term, healthy relationship. Of course, the people that we see on social media and in media, period, are the guys who are on the private jets and on the yachts and, going to the grand galas and, the openings. That's what we see, but that's not
Yeah.
real life.
No.
Most of us just want to be with somebody who loves us, somebody who we can make a life with, somebody
Mhm.
who, can tolerate us and we can tolerate them.
Right.
But this
And shares your values, hopefully.
exactly, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I mean, and you can build a life together, because jumping from relationship to relationship is exhausting. It's
Yeah.
Hmm.
draining.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it sucks you dry.
And so many folks, especially younger folks these days, are saying they've just had it. They're just giving up on it. A lot of
Sure.
people are just, again, you hear this especially from women,
Hmm.
sort of millennial, like Gen Z, maybe even up to through Gen X to some
Yeah.
extent, saying they've just had it with dating. So they're just kind of giving up on it, which is
Well, I
sad.
mean, I think a big part of the problem is, Bruce, is that, they're on these sites and they're picking, that top 15% of guys, that
Hmm.
these guys are not on there for relationships. They're on there
Yeah.
for hookups.
Yeah.
I mean, their evolutionary brain is telling them, you know, let's go for the hottest, cutest, sexiest guy, that is with me on any one of these sites. I'm not realizing that this guy is not into it for the long haul.
Hmm.
The guy who would be there on a weekend to be at home doing, husband things, you're going to look at him and go, he's not as cute as I would want. I mean, I don't like his hairstyle. I don't like whatever. So he gets dismissed. So they end up in these relationships with these guys who were never going to be they were never relationship material to begin with.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my personal theory. That's why a
Yeah.
lot of these girls, they just end up being disappointed.
Hmm.
They don't want the guys who want them. They want the guys that every girl wants. That's a
Hmm.
recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster. I mean, and again, I think, your social media minds have been conditioned that unless he's a baddie or, hot guy, and, he's not worth pursuing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the truth couldn't be much more different than that. The guys that make the best husbands are not the guys that most women are going to find to be the most attractive. That's just not the
Hmm.
case.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
you know.
interesting,
But
even though eventually many, or if not most, I don't know, you could speak to that better than I can, of those same women want a guy who would be a good husband. Eventually, that's what they
absolutely,
want. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And but they hardly ever do. And what happens is a lot of these girls, they get good guys who would be that person when they're younger, when they're 24, 25. They reject them. They get to 35 or 37 or 39, and then double back and say, hey,
Mhm.
where is that guy, Bruce? I mean, he would be a great, but guess what? Bruce is already married and has 3 kids. He's no
Hmm.
Mhm.
longer available.
Yeah.
He's moved on.
Yeah.
He's found a girl who loves him for him.
Right.
Mhm.
And then she has regret, I mean, 10, 15 years later, going, oh my gosh, that could have been me. But
Mhm.
guess what? You know, you didn't want that at that point in time. So there are a lot of people out here with regret at the choices that they made earlier in life, and I think a lot of them just aren't getting the message that love is not about necessarily what makes your heart flutter. Love is about, for me at any rate, love is a verb. It's the things that you do.
Hmm.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
not the things that you say. All right. So I would tell anybody, if you find somebody who is willing to do for you what you want done, figure out a way to learn to love them in whatever love means to you, because that's
Hmm.
what you want.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, somebody who's going to be happy to do for you what you want them to do for you.
So true. So
Indeed.
true.
So, how can people get in touch with Marrying America? What should people do if they want to sign up?
All they need to do is go to marryingamerica.com, sign up, and start looking for the love of their life.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah,
right.
because again, we intend to be very different, very intentional, and really get people started off on the right foot. And again, the site is designed for people who are looking for serious relationships, not looking to just have a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to hear down the line, the numbers of people who heard this and signed up and are get married because of because of listening to this podcast. I hope that happens.
See, no, yeah, I mean, I have every confidence that it will because, like I said, I think the vast majority of unmarried people want to be married people, and they just need an environment where they can meet, match, fall in love, and get on with the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
But we'll see. Time will tell, right?
That's right.
Time will
Well,
tell.
thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you,
No,
Jeremy.
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this a lot. And as we continue on this mission, having been in the marriage game for decades now, I can attest that it's a beautiful thing.
We agree.
And anybody who wants it, there you go. Anybody who wants it should have a legitimate opportunity at finding it, and that's what we're trying to do. Even those that really
Amen
want
to
it,
that.
a legitimate opportunity to find
Well,
it.
thank you for providing that opportunity to many, many singles.
Thanks, Julie. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Let's get them married, right? And into healthy relationships. Because Lord knows we
Absolutely.
could use those healthy relationships.